Hi everybody, welcome back to Bentley House. I'm Aira and I'm not going to be on camera today. I'm not going to show my face. To be completely honest, I'm in my pajamas and I hope you guys are too. I hope you're enjoying this December 27th and just taking a break. It's almost the end of the year, and because it's almost the end of the year and the beginning of a new year, I thought I would show you some items that I take in my miniatures kit, because maybe you're starting as a miniaturist and you'd like to see what things you can get to really kind of have a base of tools that will be helpful. Maybe you're planning to take some classes upcoming. This is the kit I always take with me when I go to classes or when I go to miniatures meetings. I know that I'll have most of what I need if I have this kit with me. So this is going to be a more simple video. I'm not making anything, but I will be showing you the tools that I use to create things. Also, if I can, I will provide links in the description box below for anything that I can find a link to. They might be affiliate links. I will always mark that down below, and that just means that I get a little kickback for the company saying thank you for linking people to our website. It doesn't cost any extra for you, and feel free to shop around, but I just wanted you to know that is what will be in the description box. If I cannot find a link for it, I'm sorry. Some of these items I've had for a while, or if I know, I will tell you where I got the item and then you can go out and search for it yourself. First of all, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the case itself. I purchased this case back in probably 2003, so it's really old. There may not be any more of these made, but I will tell you that this is actually a fishing tackle box, and I do think maybe got it at Walmart or maybe even Academy, but it has lots of small compartments in the top here, and it has lots of bigger compartments in the bottom, and so this makes it a very versatile case that I can put many things into. My hands are here to kind of give you an idea of the size of this case. It is kind of big, but it's not too difficult to carry around. I'll flip it over so you can see the top, and there will be a little bit of a glare for you, but again, here's my hands so you can see the size of the top of this case. And the top and the bottom do open separately. You can, I'm sure, find several other cases like this, or you could find something in, like, I know like cake decorating has gotten really big, so you can look in the cake decorating aisle of a hobby store. You can go to the fishing tackle area, you can go look in the actual crafting area. I know like scrapbookers have some really interesting storage solutions. So just kind of look around, shop around for what you think will be the best for what you need to carry. So this top part is clear. I can look in here. I mean, I've scratched it up over however many years of using it, but originally I could see very clearly into here, and I could kind of see what items were already in my case. The company is Plano, P-L-A-N-O, if you want to try and look up and find this. Again, if I can find a link for this particular case, I will put it in the description box. So as I said, the top opens separately, so I'm just going to open the top piece, and I'm going to walk you through the items that I have in this storage section. To give you an idea, it's about an inch and a half deep or so, and that's important because some of these items do stick up a little bit, and I don't want to have to like scrunch down the lid. So just kind of pay attention if you're looking for a case how deep the spaces are so you can get everything in there. I'll start up here at the top and pull out some of these items. I have some small clamps up here. These are actual clamps that I got at the hardware store, and I believe these were maybe from Harbor Freight. They're fairly cheap, and when it comes to miniatures, they do a pretty good job. I also have some bigger ones right here, and they have been well used. They kind of crack over time, but they're still pretty good for the price that you pay. These are little clips that I got at the dollar store, so I can get like, I think there's like 6 of them in a package for $1, and so these are just another good thing to have around if I'm trying to keep something glued together. In this next section, I have a various variety of sandpapers, and I don't want to bring in just like giant sheets because usually I don't need that much, so I just have some different grades of sandpaper and I've just clipped them together, so whatever I need, if I need a tougher, rougher grit or a more fine grit, I can just sort through my sandpaper collection here and pull out what I need. Over here I have some pliers, and these come in handy so much for everything, not just miniatures. There's always a use you can find for pliers. I just have a couple different types. This one is one that's like a, I don't know, you call this a flathead. I'm probably not going to have the best names for all these tools, but I'll show them to you so you can try and find them if you're interested in them. And then this one is a cut off, so if I'm working with wire I can cut through the wire and this will help me bend it. Typically you can get packages of plier sets and they'll come with like 4 or 5 different pliers. These are just the ones I happen to have here. Some of the other ones are over in my other tool chest. They don't all fit in here, and I find that I don't really need all of them when I'm going to a class. Just having a couple options are usually enough for me to get through a class with the tools that I need. I always make sure to have some super glue. That comes in handy as well for real life, not just miniatures. It's great to know where you have some super glue when you need to mend something, but of course for minis it does come in handy. Again, I have my clamps, my larger clamps here. This is just a spritzer bottle of water, and I use this also, I can just take the lid off and pour water if I need some water, but this just contains just some plain water, so I don't have to go find a sink if I don't know where one is. I can tell by this brand here that I got this at Target, but really any spritzer bottle or even like a water dropper bottle would work. These two cases right here contain pins. This is a case of T-pins. And I really like these for fine detail work because it has the T on the end, so they're really easy to hold on to as opposed to a sewing pin. And then also you can pin things in place while you're working on them. And this is just regular sewing pins. When you're working with perhaps dolls or upholstery or something that has to do with fabric, these will come in handy because you can pin things down into foam board. Next row down, I have some Q-tips. I don't have to keep many in here, but I do like to have a little baggie of Q-tips, and then also a baggie of toothpicks. Q-tips, toothpicks. Yep, a baggie of Q-tips, a baggie of toothpicks, and I like to keep those in here. These come in really handy if you're trying to put down a fine line of glue. You can just take the toothpick, and actually over here on this other side I have a milk cap, so this is on the top of like McDonald's milks, and whenever my children are done with them I keep the caps. I can put glue in here and then use a toothpick to take out a little bit of glue at a time, and then I'm sure you guys have seen that in my videos where I just have a little glue and I can use the toothpick with it. In the center here I have a full-sized scale. This is an architect's scale. It has the inches on one side and then different scales on the other side. You can just do a regular ruler. I'm used to using an architect's scale, so I like to have that in there. And then I also have a smaller one. Smaller ones are great to have because they can get inside of miniature spaces, like inside of a dollhouse. So I'm really glad that I have this one in here. And I have found these in like the Hobby Lobby architectural area where they have a lot of rulers and like mechanical pencils. That's where you can find these. Another thing I have here is a bunch of embroidery thread, and I cannot tell you how many times having thread has come in handy. Not even when I've been working on fabric things, but I've used it to like stretch out and make, like I've put paint on the string and then made a straight line on something, just so I can make sure that my lines are straight. So having a little bit of string is just a great thing to have in your case at all times, at least I have found. And then down here I just have a few batteries, and I had these because I used another tool at a class, and so I just leave these in here in case that tool runs out of battery. I have extra batteries. On the next row I have a few mechanical pencils, I have a pen, and a Sharpie, and usually I have a thicker Sharpie in here as well, but for miniatures typically a thinner edge Sharpie will probably work better. In this area I have several different paintbrushes of different sizes, different shapes, and then I also have a dotting tool. My other ones I think are in my toolbox, but I just try and keep one in here at all times. They do come in handy. And then I have some fabric scissors. I have other scissors in the bottom, but these are small enough to be up at the top, and I've marked them fabric so I don't get confused or nobody comes over and borrows them and uses them for paper. So in the bottom here I have a few different things. I have a box cutter tool. I typically like to use the box cutter for materials like foam board, cardboard, larger materials, because I feel like it fits in my hand a lot better than trying to use a very delicate craft knife. I feel like this is just a lot heavier duty and I can use it better. That's just my opinion. So I like to have one of these in here. And then I also have my X-Acto blade. I ended up losing the lid on this one, but it still works, so that's why I keep it in here. Typically I'm the only one getting into this case as opposed my desk where little hands might get in there, so I keep the one that doesn't have the lid in this case. Also in this area I have a few different types of tweezers. These are ones that stay closed unless you push on them, and then these are ones that are bent so you can pick up things very delicately, and so just a couple different types of those are handy. These are some, I want to say calipers, I don't think that's right, but they can click when they're closed, and so it can hold on to something really tightly. I have two different sets of these. One is straight and one is curved, and I believe these were given to me by my father, so I will try to find a link for these if you're interested in this type of tool, but these can be very, very helpful. And finally, in the bottom of this area, this is kind of versatile little space down here, I have several different shaped files. There's a couple that are flat. This one is completely round. This one has like some triangle edges on it, and this one is just slightly curved. And these you can get in packs, typically from a hobby store or a Home Depot type store. These I believe came from Harbor Freight. If you have a Harbor Freight near you, definitely go check them out. Last time I was there they had an entire aisle full of small tools like this, and it can be a really helpful and a cheaper place to go and just get a bunch of tools that are going to be helpful in your miniature creations. And finally in this corner I just have a couple erasers, and because I like to do a lot of drawing out my designs, I always like to make sure that I have a couple erasers. These are the white rubber erasers, and they are the best for getting rid of pencil lines. And then I have just a couple extra blades here for if I need to change out my blade. So that's it for the top level of my toolkit. One thing that I do need to remember is to clip it shut, or to actually do the little fasteners on the end. I have forgotten that before, opened up the top part and watched everything fall all over the floor. So if you do get a kit like this, make sure that you're keeping in mind that you close off places you aren't using before you open up other places, because it can be a mess to clean up. Now I'm going to unhook this bottom part here, and this whole thing lifts up. You'll hear everything shift a little bit, and this is the bottom section. Another thing I liked about this case is that it was very versatile. I could put in these little plastic things to make my sizes different. I have long since lost these plastic things, but honestly I love having these big open areas for storage, so I don't even really miss them. In this area I have some masking tape, which is always great to have to tape down things that you are working on. I have my tacky glue, and then of course my wood glue ready to go. I like to keep some bags in there. This is a larger bag that has a few smaller bags in there because if you are working on miniatures, you get something finished, it can be nice to go ahead and package it so it's not loose in your kit or loose in your purse as you're trying to get back to your home. I have a package of baby wipes in here because oftentimes my hands do get messy while I'm working on something. It's really great to have these. You don't have to always get up, go find a sink to wash your hands. You can just wipe your hands off. And it's also great for also wiping down your workspace, especially if you're working in a space that's not yours. You want to be respectful and kind and keep everything cleaned up as much as possible. I also keep in here a few extra sheets of blank paper for taking notes or making some sketches while I'm working on something. Always find this helpful. I have wax paper that I can spread out and work on top of. Again, if you're working in someone else's space or if you're going to a class, you want to make sure that you keep your space clean, or if you know you're going to be painting, you put something down so that you're not creating a mess on someone else's property. And then finally in the bottom I have a small cutting mat, and this mat I purchased at Daiso, and I don't know if you will have one near you. It's actually a new store to my area, but it has a lot of really fun things to go look at. So if you do have a Daiso, it's spelled D-A-I-S-O, I believe. And they have a little crafting area. You can get super glue, not our Daiso, but some Daisos have resin, like UV resin. They have blades, so that could be another place to go stock up on some miniature supplies. In this area up here, I have just some regular paper cutting scissors, which always come in handy. I have a little cup. This is a great little water cup that I can keep at my workspace, and then I can just fill it up with water and then just dump it out once I'm done. And so it's always great to have one of those so you don't have to figure out what am I going to put water in if you are painting. I also have my favorite tool, the Easy Cutter, which I've mentioned several times, but I will also link it down below. One of my favorite tools. It's great for getting nice cuts on wood, and I've even cut mat board with this, so it's just a really versatile tool, and if I can fit it into my craft kit, I always end up taking it with me. Whenever I have extra cutoffs of foam board, I like to put these in here because this is a great way that you can, with the T-pins that I showed you earlier, can punch into this material and hold things in place. So I always find it good to have some foam board, just scrap foam board that I can use if I need it. And finally, in the bottom here, I have some quilt batting, but I don't always have quilt batting in here. It is something that is nice and soft if you need a squishy surface to work on. I could also have fabric in here. Whatever I need to work on the project, I know I'm going to be working on. So I do keep this guy in here most of the time. I think there is also a rogue paintbrush down here, which I will move him to the top. So as you can tell, this bottom area is blank, and this is typically where I would bring project specific supplies. So if I knew I was going to be painting something, I could grab certain bottles of paint, and those could go in this area so that I knew that I had the paint colors that I wanted. Typically when you're going to a class, they'll supply things like that, but most of the time, you can always ask ahead of time, but most of the time if you're going to a class and you know that you like the project but you want specific colors maybe for your project, they are okay with you bringing some of your own paint colors. It just depends on the teacher whether they're okay with that. Another thing that I can fit into this area is one of these little magnifying glass things. This is another thing that I purchased at Harbor Freight. It's great because it does have a light. So I don't know if you can see that. It has a light here, and then it has little clampy arms like so, so it can hold whatever I am working on, and then it just kind of makes it bigger so that I can see. And sometimes wherever your class is, they may not have great lighting, so it is nice to have that light underneath here. So I do remember I purchased this from Harbor Freight, but I will try and find a link for you if you don't have a Harbor Freight near you. And this guy does have a lot of joints, so I can fold him up and fit him into this area if I know that I'm going to need some magnification and light. And this is what I had those batteries for in the upper part of my kit. The other thing I sometimes take with me is my Dremel, and then I bring just a few little Dremel pieces, whatever I think I might need. And this is a tiny little guy that I don't know if they make this style. Actually, I know they don't make this stylus anymore, but I know there are probably some smaller Dremel models that you can find that might fit into a kit, but I'll just put the little drill bits in there, and I know I have my Dremel ready to go. And the final thing that I sometimes take is this little jeweler's hammer, and I really have no idea where I got this, but it's been in my kit for a while, and it has come in handy every now and then. So not an essential tool, but something nice to have, especially if I'm working on a wood project or something where I might need to use a little bit of force. This is a nice smaller type tool that can be used. So that's it for today's video. It was kind of short and sweet, but I hope you guys enjoyed it, and maybe it gave you an idea for creating your own mini kit. I always think it's great when I hear people are starting miniatures or they're looking into taking classes. So I hope this would be a great resource for people just to look back at this video. And not that you have to have everything that's in my kit. Some of these things you can buy at Walmart, some of them you can get at a local hardware store. I just wanted to give you an overview of what's in my kit. Typically, having these supplies has left me fairly prepared. And the other thing that's great is if you're taking a class with miniaturists, I have found that they are just a fantastic group of people, and I have been at classes before where I only had maybe 50% of what I needed, and people were just so generous and were like, here, take this, here, I want to share with you, here, I'll sit next to you and we can share this item. So don't be afraid, don't feel like you have to go out and get all of this before you take a miniatures class. But if you're like me and you prefer to be prepared, this is just a great overview of things that I have found helpful and useful. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you have an amazing rest of the year, which is only like, what, 3 or 4 days? And it's been a fun year. It's been an interesting year. It's been a fun year, but I just want you guys to know that you, the members of Bentley House Minis, people who comment and like and subscribed, and just everybody who's been a part of this year as I've started this miniature journey, you have all meant just so much to me, and I truly appreciate it. I'm looking forward to seeing what 2020 holds, and I guess we'll all find out together. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.